Go.
Hi. What a low-key intro to the Loki Aftershow right here. JLJ Media. Hey, everybody. We're back again, continuing our coverage, so to speak, and recaps of all of Loki season 2. But, as they say, why, I don't want to say misery loves company, but you know what? Recaps love company as well. So it's not just John and I anymore. We have a return JLJ Media All-Star, Kimberly McAndrew, back with us.
Hello.
Welcome back, Kim.
Yay. So happy to be back.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll be breaking down episode 2 of season 2, Breaking Bad, and sadly, no Bryan Cranston or Aaron Paul in this episode, but plenty of other stuff to enjoy. So, as always, folks, if you want to enjoy the conversation, make sure you join the YouTube channel. You can share your thoughts and comments on the stream. And if you want to give us a super chat, that is fully enabled and ready if you so choose to do so. But before we dig into all the specifics, Kimberly.
Yes.
How are you enjoying Loki season 2 so far?
So far, so great, I think. I'm liking it a little bit better than season 1, and I loved season 1. So it's been a really nice surprise. I like where they're going with it. I like the whole, just the idea of everybody at the TVA becoming aware of what the situation really is with their lives, and just trying to, and we'll get into that in a minute, but with what's his name, Matthew, the Zaniac, and just kind of get into just free will and just your choice, and what would you do if you found yourself in this weird situation at the TVA.
John Dunphy, did episode 2 continue the enjoyment that you had from episode 1?
Oh, for sure. I like this show is so good because it's not just a great show. Like the actors that are in it, like the performances, like especially this week. And I'm blanking on the name, but X5, the actor Brad Wolf, his acting performance especially stuck out for me.
Yes.
Like so much in this episode, right? Like, and I just I've been loving the show. I have like a lot of questions. Like I'm confused about certain things, but not in a bad way. Like I just can't wait to see where we're going from here, because I feel like we're only 2 episodes in, and I feel like so much has happened already, but like it's also stayed in this sort of like intimate kind of like setting where it's like, with a certain number of characters that we know very well, that we love, but the story feels very big. Like where are they going to go next? Like it's the way that like the staff, like the writers and everything, the production of this show has gone, like I'm always impressed by it, because I just feel like they really are nailing this. I know not all of the Marvel shows have had the best reception, but Loki, for me, like this team constantly feels like they're hitting the mark, So
Nice. Well, we do jump into this episode where I feel like, and I just want to ask the both of you, it does seem like just a narrative gap from where we ended episode 1 to episode 2. We take a huge leap, because it felt like we were just kind of setting up some potential shenanigans in the hunt for Sylvie. But when we join here, X5 is, other than just seeing all those cases being carried into time doors, is also now gone from the TVA, back on the sacred timeline, has gone back in time and decided to embrace what his role was meant to be there, which is the superstar actor Brad Wolf. John, were you confused or felt like, hey, wait, did this seem like a big jump to you from where we were story-wise in episode 1?
Yeah, I mean, like, it was interesting because, they obviously highlighted the relationship between X5 and Docs. Like, X5 was clearly like a loyal, seemed like the right-hand man for Docs, but with that close embrace that they had, that almost seemed like a mother-son embrace, like in the first episode. So you felt like, all right, I felt like he's going to stay loyal to her, even though in that moment, like when they were in that room, in episode 1, you could see that he was questioning certain things. Like he was like, this changes everything. And Doc's like, this changes nothing. So you could see he was questioning things. But I was very surprised to see that right off the bat in episode 2, he had already sort of abandoned Docs and found his place back on the sacred timeline, to be this big star. Like I expected him to have conflict throughout the season, but not to just sort of bail on what the mission was that they were trying to accomplish right off the bat in episode 2. You know what I mean? Like that was definitely a big leap for me.
Were you satisfied though with that, or did it seem like a leap too far in terms of what you were hoping to see narratively?
I think I was satisfied with it. It didn't bother me. Like it was cool to me to see them catch up with him, and like the situation had totally changed, but it still made sense to me. Like it wasn't a leap too far. I was surprised by it, but it definitely didn't, take it too far for me personally.
Kim, because that's I think that the one challenge. There's only 6 episodes this season, so we've talked about many other series, whether it be Star Wars or Marvel related, where how they spread the narrative real estate over those episodes. More often than not, we feel like they dragged their heels too long and the ending's rushed. The characters are underdeveloped. So I guess on one hand, if they're trying to just accelerate the storytelling, I guess we don't need all those little narrative bits in between episodes. But on the other hand, for me, it felt a little too much of a jump. How did you land on that?
I landed on, I liked it because it's what old Loki would have done if he had been in his position. If he had found, his way, the sacred timeline, and he had found out that he was, king of Asgard, he would have been like, oh yeah, mission over. I'm here. I'm home. And, he just would have been like, yep, this is what I'm entitled to. And so you see Loki's irritation with him, but at the same time, you kind of see him kind of grinning like, yeah, I would have done this too if I was you. If I found out I was a big movie star, I totally would have just, dropped anchor and stayed. So he kind of understands him, but at the same time, it's like, no, we all have to, grow up and help other people. But yeah, old Loki would have, in a heartbeat, would have done
it. So we get a nice little trip back to the 80s, where, of course, attending the premiere of Zaniac. I'm going to ask each of you. John, I'll start with you. Give me your elevator pitch for Zaniac.
Oh God! Oh my God! I let Kim go first. I have no idea.
God, I don't know.
All right, Kim. What's the elevator pitch for Zaniac?
Oh wow, I don't know. Because he called it an elevated thriller.
Yeah, that's right.
So elevates an elevated thriller. It's not a scary movie. It's an elevated thriller. That's a good question. Maybe real close to, like, I don't know, the Conversation or French Connection or something. But much lower budget.
Oh, all right. Nice.
like a Wish version. If you ordered the French Connection off of Wish, that's what you would get, is Zaniac.
All right. John?
I might have to get back to you on this. I want to think about this more.
All right. Okay. I'm going to throw out that it has something to do, with Walkmans and reprogramming people's minds to be slaves. So if they listen to a certain cassette in a Walkman, it turns them into a Zaniac. For whoever's mad scientist or governmental reason that they want to be able to induce mass control at whim, to be able to turn this angry horde on whoever they feel needs to be stopped, and they become a Zaniac. And there's going to be
like
Brad Wolf is the one man who understands the secrets and is out to stop the Zaniacs from becoming a major global epidemic.
Okay.
So is this thing that they're playing through the Walkmans like the same sound that they had Bix listening to in Andor? Like that same, like the same frequency.
Yes. I mean, it's almost like sort of like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, where Silver
Nice.
Shamrocks,
Oh,
where you
hell
play
yeah.
that and anybody's wearing the mask, their face just melts and turns into bugs. So
Yeah.
there you go. This one, it just turns them into I feel like some producers saw that and said, "Hey man, that's a cool idea. What if we did it with Walkmans?" And now we have Zaniacs.
You have a whole scanner moment with and
There
just the
you
whole
go.
thing. Yeah.
Anyway, Marvel, reach out to us. We can put together for you for a, one of your 1 hour specials or something.
We're happy to write it for you.
Yes, absolutely. look, look at the ideas just bouncing on that. But we get to see Brad Wolf, as much as he says that he's excited to see these guys and wants to grab a drink with them. At his first opportunity, he bolts out of that premiere. We get a nice extended chase. Which I gotta admit, I wonder if actors are love those days or dread those days where it is just lots and lots of running.
Ugh. I would hate it.
Yeah.
I would hate it. I know I would.
I would hate it too. Especially if you're like dressed up nice and you have to run a lot. You're wearing uncomfortable like dress shoes and like running on concrete. Like, get out of here. I don't want to do any of that.
And it's not like you can just like kind of run kind of a casual jog. It's like, no, you got to be running full tilt for each of these different cuts. You got to be just going from 0 to 60 in each of them. Like, okay.
Yeah, they're trying to drag you back to the TVA. You got to run. For real.
Can you just shoot me from like the shoulders up, and I can act like I'm running?
And I can wear my New Balances instead of these dress shoes. That would be nice.
Yeah.
But at least in this, which I think we didn't get to see as much of in season 1, but we get to see just Loki just going back to using more magic more often than not. It was just nice to see like him doing what he does so well as he's trying to corner Brad Wolf. With his multiple versions of himself, using the shadows to restrain Brad Wolf.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, it was so nice to see Loki using his magic, using his powers again. Like, because I feel like there was so much of a focus in season 1. Not that we didn't see any magic from him in that season, but there was such a focus. He spent so much time in the TVA where he can't use these powers. So like, to see him now in episode 2 here in season 2, I actually get to flex some of those magical muscles. Was really, really nice, especially because I actually watched the first Avengers last night before I went to bed. And like, you obviously see him doing a whole lot in that movie. So it was like, it almost like, I wonder if this episode is what made me want to watch Avengers again for the first time in a while. Cause I was like, it's just nice to see Loki using those powers. Yeah,
it's made me want to fire up Ragnarok and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So of course they take our boy Brad back off that secret timeline, not getting to see that premiere. I mean, he worked hard on the movie, but because that's the other thing that made me feel like, well, some time has passed, because his hair has got that nice kind of 80s look to it, as opposed to the kind of high-end trim tight look that he had in episode 1. So we get it back and they start to interrogating it, and Brad is not bucking. He knows the games of the TVA. He knows how they break down people. So he's not falling for it. And we get some scenes where he's pushing back on Loki and Mobius. Kim, how did you enjoy those interrogation scenes?
I was like, I'm kind of on his side. I don't blame him for doing what he did. But then when he brought up Loki's mom, I was like, oh, buddy, you're on your own. You're on your own. Because that was not cool. That was really not cool. And he is going to make you pay for that in some way.
Yeah.
And it will not be subtle.
Right.
You will know.
John, were you seeing Brad's point of view on that? Or were you pitying?
Yeah, I agree with Kim that like, I totally understood where X5 is coming from, learning this big revelation that, your whole life has been taken from you. You've basically been kidnapped and forced to work for the TVA and had to leave this life behind that you could have had. The thing that really that I really loved about this scene though was seeing how X5 started to rile up Loki, and you think that this is going to lead to Loki really losing his cool, which he definitely starts to do.
Mhm.
And then, you know, Mobius kind of helps Loki say, you know, all right, step away. Like, this isn't good. Step away. But you're expecting Loki to lose his cool. And then Mobius kind of comes in with his lighthearted sort of thing. And you're like, okay, Mobius is going to bring the temperature down a little bit, get rid of some of the tension. And then it ends up being Mobius being the one that like totally loses his cool, actually gets physical with X5 and hits him. You know, it's like the thing that you were expecting to happen with Loki, actually, it was Mobius that was the one that actually like went after X5 the way that you would have expected Loki to, which I think was like really like stuck out to me and was something I really enjoyed from this scene.
No, I agree. It's nice to see Mobius kind of get pushed a little bit out of his comfort zone, and you get to see just a little bit more of the underlying feelings that he's having about all these revelations about the TVA. And that leads into like a really great scene between Mobius and Loki down in the pie room, where they're just enjoying some sweet key lime, which I don't know. That pie looked a little too green for me.
It was scary looking.
Yeah.
How long do you think that pie's been down there?
It looked very radioactive. I was like, oh.
I did like the conversation between the two of them, where Mobius is, for him, it's like, what if his life is great on the sacred timeline? He doesn't want that knowledge rattling around in his head. He's, so better for him to not know whether it's bad or good, because either side has its drawbacks. John, how did you enjoy that scene?
Oh, it was great. It goes back to what I was saying when we first started the stream tonight. Like the acting performances in this show are just phenomenal. And it was like sitting at this table with the two of them, and you just feel for Mobius so much because you know that he's lying to himself. Like, of course he wants to know what his life was like, but he can't bring himself, because what if it was this great life that's been ripped away from him? Like, yeah, I totally get where he's coming from too, where it's like, if there's something out there that you could have been a part of, or in your past that you missed out on, if that situation was bad and you were removed from it, like, sure, that's not a problem. But you always take the risk of like, man, I could have worked at that place 5 years ago and my life would be so different now. Like, it would have been so great, but I turned that job down for another one. Like, it felt very like relatable, where it's like, I loved this scene. I thought it was great. And I thought that Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, like, their chemistry on screen is just, it's awesome to watch. I love it.
Yeah, I really, really like it. I hope that when, they get back around to doing, more Marvel films, and hopefully they'll be able to get Loki involved. And I hope they bring Owen Wilson along with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I like about it too is just, I like where Loki has grown as a character, because this conversation, there's no ulterior motives. There's no hidden agendas. It is just Loki. And not that he won't have those with other people or in other situations, but it seems with Mobius, at least, right now, he's definitely got just a friendship with him that is, in this scene, in this moment, he's genuinely, trying to talk to Mobius about all this, and it's about Mobius and what he's thinking. And of course, Loki's able to share some of his feelings about stuff that he's done in the past too. But I thought it was just two characters having a genuine moment, and I really like seeing Loki in those situations. Yeah,
I agree, especially like because we've seen so much of Loki in past movies and stuff, and it's like, we know he obviously has always made the wrong decision in the past, but he did, like, we also know that he always did have a relationship with his mother that was, there was love there, even if he always screwed up in the past and did, made the wrong decision. And even his relationship with Thor, his brother, it's like, that he's always stabbed Thor in the back, but like there is a lot of complex, it's a very complex relationship. Like, that he does deep down have love for Thor, but at the same time, it's like, it feels like in this sort of interaction between Loki and Mobius, it's like, this is probably the first time, especially because we've seen the growth from Loki, and that he's in a different place now than he was, during the previous movies that we've seen. Like, this really felt like this is the first time that Loki got to sit down and like have a real conversation with a friend, like
Yes.
somebody that he cares about and cares about him in the same way. Like, so it's just a really cool side of the character to see. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, because that's certainly something we never have seen with him in the other Marvel films. I mean, I feel like that's always the case with characters of that sort, where it's just nobody's ever given them a chance or anything like that. And now you see what it's like when a character like that is given a chance by somebody to be treated just as as an equal. There's no hidden agendas. I'm going to be by your side, and you can see how that can affect the person. And it's cool to see that that Loki is kind of experiencing that kind of emotional growth. Kim, were you digging those scenes as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just, besides really wanting them to bring automats back so bad. I just want to go to one just once. I really, really liked the scene. It was just this episode was just really just both sides of Loki, and it was really well balanced. We got to see his villainous side, his god of mischief, all mixed up, but also just how much he's grown, and what he really, when he says, oh yeah, there's that time I got mad at my dad and held New York hostage and killed a bunch of people. I was like, I was just really pissed. And it's like he knows that, that he's done bad things, and he knows why he's done them, and he wants to change. But at the same time, it's kind of fun to split up into 3 Lokis and have people wonder which one's the real one.
Yeah.
The other thing that we're learning, though, too, is that, of course, the Miss Minutes device that X5 had with him had been modified somehow. And X5 tells B-15, Mobius, and Loki, it's like, oh, so it prevents the TVA from tracking. But they decide to go check in with OB, who's still busy trying to figure out how to be able to take all these multiple timelines and get them properly kind of filtrated through the TVA so nothing explodes. Yeah. And I do like at least that Mobius and Loki are able to take a moment and go like, yeah, you're right, that's more important.
Right.
Yeah. Then what's going on?
Yeah, it was a perfect moment. That was so great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they get, of course, Obi doesn't leave him high and dry. He goes, oh, here, read this book. Everything you know is in my guide, but I wrote about the TVA, which we learn is, for some is a hindrance, but others is, like a sacred text.
Bible.
Yeah. So that leads us to figuring out Casey running into Mobius and Loki as they're trying to fix this device, and it's not working. They can't follow the instructions. But Casey's like, oh yeah, I read this. You practically memorized it. What do you mean you don't know? But he lets them know it's like, whatever this modification is, it's not about preventing the TVA from tracking. There's something else going on. So Loki and Mobius go and decide to do a little runaround where it's exploiting Loki's gift of mischief to be able to go back again at X5 again. So Kim, how did you enjoy Loki's one-on-one?
It was just perfect, because you were like, oh, it's really interesting, because I think he learned from his encounter with Black Widow and remembered that and used that to question X5. He used that, just kind of let him talk it out, and then I'll figure out what's really going on. And I was like, that's interesting. I said he was paying attention when he got completely finagled by Black Widow back in the Avengers. He remembered he remembered that trick, and it was really smart and clever to do that. But I also see that gleam in his eye when every time he would turn that knob. I was like, he still enjoys his work a lot.
John, there's how long do you think you'd hold up? Would you have given up much earlier than X5 in revealing your info, or would you have gone all the way as far as he did with having that cube squeezing on you?
I got to be honest. I think the second that Loki like
Yeah.
put that cube around the stool and shrunk that, I would have been like, all right, fine. Don't do that to me, please.
I'm like, whatever you want to know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you anything.
It looks like that whole contraption looks like a dusty old like giant vacuum, but no, it has the ability to crush things, including me.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever you want, tell me. Like I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it really tests. I mean, shows I guess Doc's fear / loyal, or X5's fear / loyalty towards Doc's, that it goes that far.
Yeah.
Where he's practically squeezed before he reveals that no. Yeah, X5 did find Sylvie and left her alone, and that's when he got the heck out of Dodge and went to get on his own life in the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just know that I would be just an absolutely terrible spy, because if I get caught, they're going to go, yeah, well, we're going to put you in this room and you can't have any lip balm or hand lotion. And I'll be like, I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
Yeah.
Everything. Just give me a pen and paper. I'm writing it down for you. I'm
Yeah,
going to
I'll
write
tell
it
you
all
stuff
down.
you didn't even ask about. I'll just tell you anything that's on my mind right now.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything and everything about my childhood, whatever.
Yeah. I'll tell
You're
you
gonna
other
know it
people's
all.
secrets. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't last 5 minutes.
So X5 finally fesses up that he knows where Sylvie is and takes them to back to Nebraska. Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yeah,
yes.
Broxton, Oklahoma. Yeah.
Back to that same McDonald's. And it's great seeing the McDonald's back in the 80s. So
Which gave me flashbacks. Our uniforms were green though. They weren't brown.
Green. Oh.
Ours were forest green, but they looked just like that.
So how long did you work at
so
McDonald's?
I worked at McDonald's for like a year. Yeah.
What was the area that you most excelled in?
I was on drive-through. I worked like just part-time, just 2 to 5 in the afternoon, because I had college classes in the morning, and then I would work that afternoon shift. And then thankfully I got a job working at a daycare, taking care of kids, and got to quit Mickey D's. But
Was it rough work, or was it just
God,
like, yeah?
It's just, it's constant. I mean, you're just go, but it's also just, people just talking down to you like, oh, you work at McDonald's, so you're, bleh. And it's like, dude, I'm in college. What do you want? What do you want me to do?
Hey, listen, McDonald's.
I'm not an astronaut. I can't fly rockets and shit yet. I mean, my God, I just graduated. Give me a break.
Hey, working at McDonald's has its benefit. I never worked there,
Absolutely.
but my oldest sister Eileen worked there, and she met her husband there. They both worked there together when they were 16 years old, and they are still married with 2 children to this day.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Did their wedding involve any sort of McDonald's iconography?
It did not. It did not.
Oh, that's a misopportunity. Like golden arches on like wedding cake.
Yeah, they met there when they were 16. They're still married now. They're both 45, so they're been a 30-year relationship.
Cool.
Born out of working at McDonald's.
Have they steered, if their kids are old enough to work yet, or have they steered them towards McDonald's as a viable first job?
I don't. Well, their oldest child is 13 now, so they haven't really gotten to that conversation yet.
Yeah.
Well, it's time. Start grooming them now. Get them ready.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Kimberly, I'm envious of the McDonald's stuff. Did you enjoy eating the food, or were you like, no, I can sell this?
At first you're like, yay, free food, and then after a while you're like, oh God. I would walk across the parking lot to a different place to get dinner after a while. Yeah. Anything
Do you eat McDonald's now, or is it like
Yeah, like all the
okay,
time.
like
Yeah.
okay. I was wondering if it was that the kind of thing that was like, I've worked
Like,
there, I ate
I
so much, I
can't
don't
do
want
it.
it. I don't want it anymore. Yeah.
No, honestly, because the backstage, where all the stuff is made and everything, it's like McDonald's has it down to a really clean system. So I'm good with going. I'm not afraid to go there. I know what goes on behind the scenes. It's a lot of cleaning. It's a lot of cleaning. So I'm totally fine with it.
I'm suddenly dying for a quarter pounder with cheese
I
and a
know,
large
right?
fry.
All right, we're going to call the show early. We're all heading to McDonald's.
I wanted a strawberry shake so bad after watching this episode. I wanted one so bad.
Yeah.
They need to get those orange shakes back. That's what they need to get back. I remember enjoying
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Oh,
I loved that line from Mobius too. It was like, man, X5, I thought you were setting us up for a trap. Turns out you were just setting us up for a great meal.
yeah. So we do get to see the reunion of Loki and Sylvie there at the McDonald's, where you always want to make that long awaited kind of reunion. That's perfect.
Yeah,
Again.
sure.
Yes. But she gets her break and hangs out on her truck, on her flatbed truck, just pull up in the back, have a seat, and they start chatting a little bit. And it's, I don't know, we just kind of dance around. We don't really get much in there. Like, I feel like Loki wants more, and Sylvie's like, no, I'm done with all this stuff. Kim, how are you feeling about that conversation between the two of them?
I felt really sorry for Loki, because he was like, oh, I've found her, and she's like, yeah, but I have a job now. This is my life. Leave me alone. She's not remotely interested. She's just like, the TVA doesn't chase me down anymore. I have, friends, and I like where I am, and I'm just happy to do this. So, I felt bad for him, because he really thought that it was going to be a lot more profound than it was.
Yeah, John, I felt like it was also kind of weird too, because we know he references with Sylvie that seeing her at the TVA in the future. So wants to know from Sylvie, like, why would you go back to the TVA? Where Sylvie makes the simple answer that we're all thinking is like, well, it hasn't happened yet, so how would I know why I'd be going back there? So I really don't. That's a moment where I'm like, come on, Loki, you're smarter than that. Why do you think she would have an answer at this moment for why she'd be back at the TVA in the future?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, it's interesting. It is funny. I agree with Kim though, that I felt bad for Loki, like in this moment. It's interesting to see Sylvie here too, because like season 1, she's on this huge mission to take down the TVA and stop He Who Remains. And then in this parking lot conversation between her and Loki, she's just like, I'm good working at McDonald's now, even though I've done all these other things in the past. Like, she just seems, like Kim said, like so uninterested. Like, while she doesn't know what happens in the future, like if Loki tells her that I saw you in the future at the TVA, I'd be a little more interested maybe in like what might happen. Like, I don't know what happens, but like maybe we should work on this and find out why this is gonna happen. So I was a little surprised to almost see her like complete indifference to it. Like, I guess like the change of pace for her is probably appealing, a feeling like I'm always on the run. I have this enemy that I want to take down, and now I've finally done it. So I just want to kind of chill out or whatever. But like, I don't know. It was definitely a surprising moment between the two of them to me. Yeah, I know, it's very interesting.
Yeah. And it doesn't last for long though, because Mobius kind of figures out, well, he's in the restaurant with X5 that's like, hold on a second, maybe this is a trap. Is this a trap? What's going on? And he figures out that there's something more that, of course, X5's not telling him. So when they go back out, the one nice thing about Sylvie is like, yes, she can dig right into your thoughts. So we don't have to, pussyfoot around this anymore. She just grabs X5, does the whammy on him, and kind of sees what the whole plan is there. which is Docs is going to use explosives that she got from the TVA to blow up all these little multiple timelines that are kind of straggling off. And we kind of finally get an idea of like what Docs' whole plan is going to be. There's part of me, and John, I'll kind of follow up you again because I asked you this, where it's like, boy, I feel like in one way, like I guess we won't know until we get to the end of episode 6, just in terms of how the narrative real estate is being used properly. But it looks like we're really like pedal to the metal on this. So, I mean, which in one sense like means like we're trying to burn through to get to even really cooler stuff by the end of episode 6. But do you have any concerns that we might get back to the episode 6 and get to end of episode 6 and feel like, man, everything was so rushed this season. Like we could have used more time kind of delving a little bit more deeply into some of these story points.
Yeah, I could go either way on this thought, that it feels like we're either going too fast, because I feel like I want to see how episode 3 starts. Like I was very surprised to see all these timelines. Like, what does this mean for the multiverse? And like, like, and so to be here, just like you said, like just in episode 2 is like very confusing to me. Like, what implications does this have for the whole multiverse? Like, does this kind of kind of show us like a shift in how Marvel's going to go forward with a lot of their projects? Like, what implications outside of Loki does this have for Marvel and for the multiverse? And I would have expected all these branches being bombed and shut off from the sacred timeline. Like, that's something that I would expect in like a penultimate episode or the last episode of the season. So to be here in episode 2, like I really have no idea where we're going from here. Like I'm curious to see what happens next, but like it doesn't really bother me right now, like, because I'm just curious to see where we're going to go next. And like knowing that we still have more than half of the season to go, like I might get to episode 6 and be like, this whole season was way too rushed. But like I feel like episode 3, we'll see how it goes. Like maybe it'll feel like we're at like a mid finale, like a mid-season finale sort of feel, like where we're going to get some answers, and then it'll set us up for how the rest of the season's going to go, like having half of the season left. I don't know. I can't. I feel like it's too early to make a judgment call for me on if this is like moving too fast, like we're burning through the story too quickly, or if it's appropriate for what we're getting set up for the end of the season. Yeah, this is kind of what I meant to in the beginning when I said like there's a lot of confusion, not in a bad way. I'm confused, but I'm just excited to find out where it's going to. Like I have questions. I'm confused, but I think it's going to work out fine.
Kim, how do you feel?
Yeah, we haven't even found Renslayer yet, and that's a whole other. You could almost do a whole series about whatever it is she's up to, which we don't know yet. And so I felt like this episode was just to help us kind of get closer to her, because I think she has a lot more to do with the season than we, might have previously thought. But a lot of confusion. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. And it's not even in a bad way. Like, right. Exactly. Like it's confusion in the best way possible. Cause it's like, it feels like there are so many possibilities. Even now trying to figure out about like how Miss Minutes is going to fit into all this. Like, I wasn't sure if she was even still around after season 1. And then we find out that she's still out there, possibly helping Renslayer. It's like, how does this fit into everything? I mean, it's just, there's so many questions, but like, I'm excited to get the answer to all of them, not in a way where it's like, there's so many questions and I hate all of this. It's like, it's the total opposite.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because they kind of side related to that is, I mean, there's definitely, I feel like different feelings in terms of what the sacred timeline and what the branches mean. Because once the truth about the TVA is revealed, there's Mobius, there's Loki, there's B-15, and maybe I'm sure lots of other people in the TVA. I feel like these are all legitimate people, even though they're branches that are real human beings leading real lives, that even though they aren't part of the sacred timeline. And then there's Docs and all the people that kind of follow her, X5 to a lesser extent. I feel like nope, these are just aberrations and they can be pruned, and it's not a big deal at all. Kim, where do you fall on this? Do you kind of see the lack of humanity in Dox's point of view on this?
Oh, absolutely. It was just heartbreaking to see all of those timelines just disappear. It was like they just said, those are people. And it was like, yeah, it's one thing that we learned from season 1 is that, yeah, those branches, when they prune something, they're taking lives, not just one life, but multiple lives. And the stakes are really, really high. And what is the right answer? Do you let all the timelines just go crazy, or do you keep one sacred timeline? What is the correct way to do it? I don't know.
John, how do you feel?
I definitely agree. Like and this goes back to lots of questions, lots of confusion, right? It's like, because like, how does the TVA really work? Like, how does everything fit together? Because it's like, for a long time, we felt like the TVA, they needed to prune all these branches because the sacred timeline had to be held intact, and any branches that led to these dangerous variants needed to be ended. And then we found out that like the TVA could still exist with all these branches, but the temporal loom is overloading because it's not designed to handle that many branches. So the TVA could end, potentially it could explode. But how does it fit into everything? Like, what do we get if the TVA dies? What happens with all these branches and with all the lives that are on it and stuff? You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I'm just excited to see where we go from here. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's it's a lot.
Well, we do get to see that they track using that hand device. They're able to figure out where Dox is, and we see a simple strike team of just Loki, Sylvie, and Mobius. Truly an elite team going into to stop all this, but it's over pretty quickly and decisively. Mm-hmm. But sadly, as you were mentioning, Kim, that not before a lot of the devices were detonated, and we just get to see a lot of the branches just disappear off the sacred timeline. We get a few remaining, but I guess the big question is but more can, it's a replenishing sort of thing though. So even though there have been a bunch detonated, which is tragic, it's not as if more branches won't be happening, just to kind of replace everything that's been extinguished, as far as I know, unless, the TVA decided to become really militant about pruning them again. And Loki, because that's the whole big thing with Loki and Sylvie, is that they have to talk about, like, this is Loki's big speech to Sylvie is that, hey, the TVA, we're the only ones that can stop this. And once Sylvie follows Loki back to the TVA and sees everything exploding and all these millions of lives lost on all these different branches, just says, oh, you don't understand. The TVA is worthless. It's rotten to the core. This is the problem as well, which I feel like, John, do you feel like this is the incident that is going to propel Sylvie to be where we see her in the future from episode 1?
I don't know. I was actually like, not that I'm surprised or, I was just a little upset about Sylvie's reaction here, because I feel like, the TVA is obviously very different now. He who remains has been killed. And while she's standing there in that room and seeing, the devastation that Dox just caused, she's hearing people like B-15, who at one point was hunting her, right? Sylvie's hearing this, people say, like, these are lives, these are people. And so for her to just kind of treat the TVA as if it's the same as it's always been, like, it's clearly changed. I was disappointed that, like, this was her response, and it didn't instead cause her to be like, I need to do what I can to help, because the TVA has changed. Loki's, I wish that she had more trust in Loki. Like, I understand that she wouldn't have that trust in people like B-15 or Mobius or anything like that yet. But like, you accomplished your mission of killing the head of the TVA. You can tell now by the reaction of the people in the room, like B-15, like, sort of in pain over all these lives that are being ended by other rogue members of the TVA. And it's like, stay here. And Loki said it's harder to stay. and she ran off. So maybe it's an internal conflict with herself of being like, I don't want to get back involved with this sort of thing yet. But it's I was hoping that she would stay, and then it would kind of show, all right, they're clearly working together on something. Now they're both back in the TVA. Like, so we'll see what happens. I mean, she obviously went back to her timeline. I guess her timeline was that Branch was spared from the devastation. But I don't know. I don't know if this will be the event or if it will be something else. Maybe like they kind of featured that moment with the other kid that works at McDonald's. When Sylvie was kind of laying on the hood of her truck and he came out and was kind of, they were having a conversation. Maybe something happens on that timeline where, you know, that kid or somebody that she works with or someone that she's met in her new life, something happens to them and she realizes, like, I have to go back. I don't know if this will be the specific event, but it's definitely got her thinking, I think. And then something else might happen that really sets her off on this other path that eventually leads to the future that we know of, where she's coming out of the elevator and Loki's standing there. We'll see.
Yeah, she's the one who started all of this, and I think she knows that, and it's hard for her to face it too. So it's harder to stay. I think it's doubly harder for her to stay.
Yeah.
Because she has to face down, I'm the one who I did this. I started all this.
We even get to see a moment after she leaves where Loki comes back over to Mobius, where, I mean, just the feeling in the room is just such defeat. Just a simple gesture of him just putting his hand on Mobius' shoulder, just like, I'm here. Just those little moments again, just really enjoy just where the Mobius-Loki relationship is at. But Kim, you mentioned Renslayer, and we do find out that in addition to Loki mentioning to B-15 and Mobius earlier that he had heard this recording from episode 1 about Renslayer talking to He Who Remains. So they're already like, oh, how long has she actually been involved in this? We do get a beat on her by the end of the episode about where she's hiding out now. So we'll see where episode 3 takes us in the pursuit of Renslayer. One last thing I'll ask you, Kim, and I'll start with you because, going back to McDonald's, which is right in your wheelhouse. We do see Sylvie at the end talking to Jack, the McDonald's employee. I've heard, speculation online. It's like, oh, maybe that the character Jack, not necessarily maybe on this branch, but that character on the Sacred Timeline is really Mobius as a young kid. Do you buy into that? Does that seem kind of like a cool idea? Where you're like, you're taking a leap too far on stuff.
You know what? The timing would work out perfectly with his age and everything, because it's 1982. And I think Owen Wilson's around my age. I'm 55, so I think that would be interesting. I hadn't read that, so I would really actually like that a lot if it was connected. Because right now it seems very disconnected. She's just kind of like, she's like a little kid. She's like hiding, and she's like, I can't see you, so you can't see me. And it's like, no, that's not how that works, dear. That's not how that works. And she's, you just have to remember that she's been on the run since she was a little kid. She's not very mature.
Yeah. And
so it's going to take her time to process what she's done. And she definitely just wants to just kind of not pay any attention to it right now.
How about you, John?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wasn't aware of that theory either, to be honest, but that would be awesome. And there's not a lot of water in Oklahoma, right? Like large bodies of water. So it would make sense about if he was taken, that, he was a kid that daydreamed about being off in some other place, going on his jet ski. And you know what I mean? Like that makes sense a little bit too. So that would be really interesting. I would love that little twist. And it would be cool to see like a young Mobius and an older Mobius possibly interact. Like, I don't know. That could be interesting.
That could be awesome.
Yeah.
Because that is one thing we did not see Mobius see Jack at McDonald's, because I feel like he would recognize his younger self if he saw him. He's like, oh, that's me. Although he wasn't Braxton, so he didn't flag on like, oh, I used to work at McDonald's. He didn't mention that either. So I could see why it could not be him just as easily.
Yeah. Well, he's had his mind wiped, right, a bunch since he got to the TVA, as far as
That's true.
We've heard. So, and it's interesting that we're bringing this up because I think during the interrogation scenes, one of the things that X5 said to Mobius was that Mobius isn't even your real name. You don't even know your real name. Like, I wonder if maybe we'll hear this kid say his full name at some point, and that'll like trigger something in Mobius. It's like, wait a minute, I remember this.
Yeah.
Like
true.
That could be interesting. Who knows? Yeah.
Because I feel like if we're going to show Jackie again at the end of the episode, I feel like, why keep showing this character if it's not going to maybe lead us to something?
Yeah. It feels like if it was a nothing character, all we would have needed from him was that initial scene of him and Sylvie together at the counter. Yeah. And that would have been it. But to see Sylvie asking him, like, is your mom coming to pick you up? Like, why do we care about that unless there's more to this kid that we're going to see later in the series? So, yeah.
Well, look at that, man. Like, we are an efficient, lean running Loki breakdown machine.
That we are.
I will ask each of theirs. We're getting ready to wrap things up here. Given the accelerated pace it seems like the story is on, do we find Kim? Do we find Renslayer at the end of episode 3?
Yeah. I think it's going to be very, very centric of finding her, and maybe even Miss Minutes too. I think it's because we've got 4 episodes left, so I think they're gonna have to get on with it pretty quickly.
Because and John, I guess that is one point we didn't really talk about, is that Obi does give the dire warning that the TVA is gonna explode because it's been programmed that they need the correct temporal aura from He Who Remains or somebody just like him to be able to open the blast doors. So we know from at least the trailer that we're going to travel back sometime in the early 1900s and see another version of Kang at that timeline. So given that we've only got 4 episodes left, how are you feeling about what we've got to accomplish and the amount of time that there is to do it?
Yeah, I feel good. I agree with Kim. I feel good about the pacing. Honestly, I think it would make a lot of sense. We ended episode 2 right with Casey announcing that we got this hit on Renslayer's tempad. So I think it would be a very fitting way to end episode 3, like the midpoint of the season, with them finding Renslayer and Miss Minutes, and then trying to figure out, we have a whole half of a season left now to deal with Kang, to deal with stopping this explosion in the temporal loom and all that stuff. I feel like it's too much to drag out this potential catastrophe from the temporal loom for like multiple episodes going further. Like, I feel like they got to find Renslayer, find Miss Minutes, solve that problem, and then like we have a half of a season left to deal with like Kang and all that stuff that's coming later.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh.
Freeze up.
I'm unstable.
Oh no!
Unstable is very exciting.
Oh no!
An unstable Frank.
That's me. I guess that's the one thing we don't know, like how much we know Jonathan Majors is going to be in this series this season, but how much of it is it going to be like last season, just one episode? Is it going to be multiple episodes? That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I will just like go back, because I know we talked on this last week, where the executive producer was saying like this is going to be kind of like the bookend to at least this story of Loki, seasons 1 and 2. But man, it is such a cool setting that I would love to see a season 3. I just feel like there's a lot of narrative possibilities in the show that it would be cool to see it go another season.
I agree, especially because the reception to the Loki series, I feel like, has been better than some of the other series that have come out post Endgame. So I feel like lean into the ones that are doing well for you, build more stories off of this. Yeah. Build more stories off of this. Why not?
Yeah. Loki's been around the Marvel universe forever. So why not keep him around? We don't have to move on from a character that everybody loves so much.
Yeah.
And I would really like them to kind of clean up Quantumania with this series too. Would be nice. And just kind of get the MCU back on the rails. It kind of went off. Quantumania just kind of, I don't know. It confused me, it bewildered me, and not in a good way.
That is agreed. That it was a movie made me sad to watch.
Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know he's our big bad and all that, but it's like, he's just a tough act to follow, Loki, because he's like the best, bad guy. We all love him so much. So I don't know. I'm hoping that this will kind of mop up some of the mess.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
And in the early, the earlier days of TV where it was seasons were, 22 episodes, I could understand it's like, oh, we don't have enough story to be able to justify a third season for this. But with 6-episode seasons, and such a really fertile concept, there's got to be a way you could come up with a fun idea for season 3 in 6 episodes.
Yeah. 6 episodes, all under an hour long. You got to be able to come up with a story to fill that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like if any series, this one is really so tied into where the MCU is going, like Kim was mentioned. So there could be a lot of stuff to help tee this up to really make Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars really cool when those films come out.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did it.
We did
it. Down episode 2. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks everybody for that. It was on the chat commenting as we were breaking everything down, sharing your thoughts and theories. And the super chat, anybody that took advantage of that, thank you so much as well. But if you want to stay in touch with any of us, even after we're done being all temporal with you guys, Kim, where can they find you?
You can find me on every platform at inplainsight.style.
Ooh,
everything.
Nice. Everywhere and anywhere.
Everywhere.
Sure. If you have tips, if you're going for a job interview at McDonald's, reach out to Kim. She can give you the right things to be able to say.
I'll help you.
John Dunphy, where can they find you, sir?
Find me on social media at jdunn89. And if you like reality TV, find me at Strat Chat Pod. That's the word strategy abbreviated to Strat Chat Pod. We talk about Big Brother, Survivor, The Challenge, all that kind of stuff. So find us, hang out with us.
And occasionally you will find an amazing guest star, such as James Lott Jr., who appeared on the Big Brother Strat Chat episode last night.
That's right. James Lott Jr. himself came to Strat Chat to talk about Big Brother last night, and it was such a blast. Such a blast. We had such a good time. So, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here for the Loki After Show. We'll be back next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time, to break down episode 3 in all its glory. But until then, go grab some McDonald's and,
absolutely
enjoy yourself. Treat yourself, as they say. And we'll see you next time. Or you can find me on Happy Go Jackie, but who cares? Go get McDonald's. That's way more fun than following me on social media.